Dede Robertson is here to discuss the secret to a marriage that lasts despite the stress of full-time ministry.
Please welcome the wife of CBN's chairman and founder, Dede Robertson. Dede, it's wonderful to have you with us today.
Thank you.
You know, what Todd and Shauna Bentley are experiencing certainly was impacted by the outpouring in Lakeland, but Christian marriages in general, our divorce rate is higher than the world's at this point. Why do you think so many ministry marriages are in trouble?
I think a lot of times the men have a call, and their wives should have a call too.
Do you think the wives know that?
No. Nobody talks about it.
What are some of the pressures that, I mean, you've been a team with Pat for many, many years through many things, including a presidential run. What are some of the pressures that spouses of men or women in leadership positions experience?
Well, I'll just share a few of mine. I went to a party with the daughter of a good friend of mine from high school and college, got married and moved to Virginia Beach. And I went to a party for her, and someone came up to me and said, "You must be so embarrassed to have your husband have the same name as that man, Pat Robertson."
Newsflash! How do you handle things like that?
Well, I just told her, I said, "No, I'm not. He is my husband." But, you know, that's just one of the little things. You find people do shun you, and people also embrace you, and they don't know you.
And people seem to want an inordinate amount of information about your family, about you personally, and it must be such an invasion of privacy. Have you felt that over the years?
I have, to a certain extent. People know me that I'd have never even seen before.
Right.
But that's not the whole part of it, is you have to work an awful lot alone. And you have to be mother and father. And with Pat and me in our early stages of marriage, he would work all day, every day, and he would also go out and preach on the weekends.
Yeah.
So we had no time together.
So how did you fight against bitterness and resentment? I mean, when you had 4 children, when you're home and you're with the kids all week and now it's the weekend and he's gone again, and I mean, I know that you had an equally strong call on your life and commitment to Christ, but where do you go as a wife with that kind of frustration?
Well, the Lord helped me a lot. During the early days of our marriage, my parents had moved to Lebanon.
Wow.
The country of Lebanon. And they were over there during some of the roughest parts. And I didn't have a home to go home to.
So maybe that was God ordained.
I couldn't afford to go to Lebanon.
Did you ever think about it?
Oh, yes.
I remember Ruth Graham once when she was asked, was she ever frustrated with Billy, saying something like, "There were times when I wanted to kill him."
Well, I don't think I ever felt that, but I sure did want to leave.
Yes.
And the Lord impressed upon me that if I left my husband, I would be leaving him too.
Wow.
And this is something I never wanted to do. And every time that I thought about leaving, Pat would suddenly come up with some of the most wonderful sayings or doings. It didn't matter what, and I'd fall in love with him all over again. So it was just one of those things. But a wife in ministry needs to know that she has a responsibility.
What about children? Because really, we're talking about the fact that a couple is in ministry, but truly a family is in ministry. How do you handle that?
Well, my children handled it. I can't say that their life was a bowl of cherries. Mm-hmm. But, you know, like my son in college, he said, hey, come in here and watch this guy on television. He thinks he's healing the sick.
Yeah. So he had to contend, your children had to contend with that amongst their friends. Wow. What advice would you give to leaders, to the person who's out front and may be so busy that they aren't even aware of what their family is contending with behind the scenes?
I think men in ministry have a responsibility to be very tender and careful with their wives.
Yeah.
And most of them don't really realize what the wife is going through. And they know that she gets cranky, and they know she gets upset, and they can tell her she's not honoring the Lord, and that doesn't help at all. But I think they just need to be a little bit more sensitive and caring, and show their care for their wives and their love for her.
Can we just broaden the picture as we come to the conclusion here to the body of Christ? Because I think when things happen, like what's happening to the Bentleys or some of the other people whose ministries we saw in that introductory piece, people are so discouraged, they're disappointed, and sometimes they're very judgmental about this. What can the body of Christ do that would be an encouragement to leaders and their families?
Pray for them. Not only pray for the man, but pray for his wife. I know I have felt the prayers of so many when I have been, well, like when I had cancer, and the prayer just lifts you up under any circumstances. And we're all told to pray for our leaders, but I think we need to pray for their wives too.
And I know you've had a wonderful Bible study for many years, so you've surrounded yourself with the fellowship of Christian women. That's important too, isn't it?
It's very important. The only problem is here I am, I'm 80 years old, and I don't know anybody right now who isn't a Christian. Except somebody that I see at the grocery store or something like that. And I miss that opportunity. When I was teaching, it was a wonderful way to tell others about Jesus.
Well, you know, in the church today, there's a lot of need for good teaching from women who've walked the walk and done it with integrity. Thank you for sharing with us today.
Well, you're certainly welcome.
Great to have you with us.